The University College of the University of Maine system, together with the Maine Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Standards, has formed a partnership to make public information more accessible to Maine's employers. This is the third part to Section 3. Steve Laundrie is discussing exceptions to OSHA record-keeping rules.
Continuing on with this slide, there may be several questions.
Yeah, I have one. What if the employee is called in, say, due to an emergency and was injured in the company-controlled parking lot?
In that situation, that is not a normal commute. Therefore, that would be a work-related case, and you would have to evaluate it as a work-related case.
What if a company-controlled parking lot is across the street and the employee is injured while crossing the public street to get to the company?
In that situation, any injury occurring on a public thoroughfare, whether it be the street or the sidewalk, would not be considered work-related. Would not be considered work-related, assuming that this is a normal commute.
But what if the employee is just simply going out to lunch?
In the situation, as I mentioned earlier, if it is a voluntary lunch situation, they're going out to a restaurant for lunch, and they're going out into the parking lot. If they are struck by another vehicle or their own vehicle gets in an accident in the company-controlled parking lot, then it would not be considered work-related. However, if as they're going out into the parking lot, they slip and fall on the parking lot, that would be considered work-related.
Regarding the normal commute, what if the employee drives to work in a company vehicle and gets injured on the way to work? Would that be work-related?
That would not be work-related. The issue of commuting does not matter as to which type of vehicle or even if that employee is paid for the commute. The activity of I'm assuming that this is a normal commute. They're coming right from their home to their business. It does not matter what type of vehicle it is. Even if they get in an accident on the way to work, it would be a commute, therefore not work-related. Other exceptions related to work-relatedness involve the following two types of situations. First off, any diagnosis of common cold or flu is not considered to be work-related. Also, mental illness cases, including stress, are not work-related, except under the following situation, which I must parse out. First off, the employee must voluntarily provide to their employer or to you a medical opinion from a physician. It could be a family practitioner or a licensed healthcare professional having appropriate qualifications. And I would ask all of you to highlight that phrase, having appropriate qualifications, such as a clinical psychiatrist, a psychotherapist, psychiatrist, psychiatric nurse, someone who is specially licensed and specially qualified to determine that this case was indeed work-related. Also, please be aware that any mental illness or stress cases are subject to privacy protection under 1904.29, which I will discuss later on in the program. The next two slides deal with issues regarding traveling. There are certain types of situations which, if an employee is going on a business trip, that would be considered work-related, and certain situations that would not be considered work-related. First off, any travel status incident is considered to be work-related if the incident occurs during travel time are only work-related when the travel is in the interest of the employer. So, for example, an incident occurring while the employee is traveling directly from the home to a hotel. Say they're driving from their home to their hotel, they get in a vehicle accident, there is an injury, the employee is injured, that would be work-related. Or, say the employee does a normal commute to their office, picks up their papers, picks up whatever equipment they need, loads it into a vehicle, whether it be their own or a company vehicle, and they get injured on the trip from there to the hotel, then that would be considered work-related. Any incidents while conducting business at a hotel. For example, if an employee is setting up a display at the hotel conference room and the display falls on that employee, injuring that employee, that would be considered work-related. And finally, any incident at a destination work site. For example, if an employee is staying at a hotel motel and is actually working at a separate construction work site, gets injured at that construction work site, then that would fall under the work-related rules. So basically, service calls, house calls, errands, client meetings, any type of work that is a condition of their employment where they have to travel is work-related, with the following page's exceptions. As I mentioned, there are certain work-related travel cases that would not be considered work-related. Under OSHA record-keeping rules, once an employee checks into their hotel-motel room, OSHA has designated that location as a home away from home. So any sort of personal incidents occurring in that home away from home would not be considered work-related. For example, if you have an employee who is taking a shower and they step on the bar of soap in that hotel-motel room, even if they get injured, that case would not be considered work-related because that occurred at their home away from home. And since that employee has actually set up that new home away from home, if the employee is actually working at a separate site, the drive from that home away from home to their work site is considered a normal commute. Therefore, if there is an accident in that normal commute, it would not be considered work-related. Also, if you have employees who travel outside of the United States, and it could be just a mile outside the border with Canada, for example, and it occurs at that location, it would not be considered work-related or OSHA recordable because OSHA does not have jurisdiction outside of the United States. And finally, detours for personal reasons. If you have an employee who decides to travel to an amusement park and spend some time there and gets injured on an amusement park ride, for example, then that would not be considered work-related. So in general, any personal detour, any international travel, or any incident occurring in your home away from home would not be considered work-related, therefore not recordable. Besides travel situations, another situation where there could be issues regarding work-relatedness have to do with situations where an employee is working at home. OSHA is aware that many people are working at home in this telecommuting age. But however, OSHA is reluctant to actually go into people's homes and to cite them for safety issues. So for an incident to occur at home, for a home work incident to be recordable, both of the following criteria have to apply. The employee is working for some sort of compensation in the home, and it does not necessarily have to be pay. It doesn't have to be monetary. For example, a volunteer firefighter is doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They get some sort of compensation for that. And is the direct result of working and not of the general home environment. And I would ask all of you to please circle or highlight that phrase, general home environment. So for example, if an employee drops a box of work documents and injures their foot, that would be work-related. If an employee's fingernail was punctured and became infected by a needle from doing sewing work at home, and it was work-related, and it was due to their job, then that would be work-related. However, if an employee brings back their laptop from work, plugs it into their electric outlet, and gets an electric shock due to faulty home wiring, then that case would not be work-related. The employee would be getting compensation, but the second part of this slide would apply. It is the direct result of working and not of the general home environment. The general home environment contributed to that case, therefore it's not work-related. Also, if a volunteer firefighter decides has to respond to an emergency call and runs down a flight of stairs in his home and steps on, say, a dog that happens to be on the next to bottom step, that case would not be work-related because, again, the general home environment comes into play.